Welcome into another episode of the Film Room. I'm really excited to be joined today by Bella Fontleroy from over at Baylor. First and foremost, Bella, like we were talking about before we got on, senior year, kind of like already missed of September, week away from official practice. How is that kind of feeling setting in for you so far?
Exciting. I can't believe it's gone by this fast, but just kind of soaking it all in before season starts. And then just ready to have a really great senior year with this team.
Yeah, I'm ready to watch it. Definitely ready for like a slight break between the W season and college, but like also just kind of like, yeah, we're in that fall spot. I'm ready for it. Um,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you before we get in. So, when I'm doing this, I watch, read pretty much everything I can find about somebody to like really learn about them. And something that sticks out with you in seeing anytime you've ever been interviewed, I feel like you're a very grounded individual, particularly for like being somebody who's like, 21, 22. Where does that come from for you? Because I think of myself when I was like 21, definitely was not in that same headspace yet. So, where does that really come from for you?
I would say that's just one of my values that my parents really instilled in me. They both had really great success athletically. My dad was a point guard on a team that went to Sweet 16. My mom played on a team that went to the Final Four.
Yep.
I would definitely say that just their success kept them really grounded. And I think from a young age, my dad has a really good basketball mind and made me work really hard. And I think he kind of knew that I had the opportunity to do something special like he did. So he just always told me, be thankful for the opportunities you have. And just don't ever think so much of yourself. Like I know that I'm a very blessed individual and I have a lot of things going for me, not just basketball wise, but just in life. And I try to be appreciative and show that appreciation in how I respond.
Definitely. No, I love hearing that. And I feel like too, just it seems like, I know you had a significant knee injury your sophomore year of high school. And it seems like that really shaped kind of how you approach the game, but also approach life outside of it as well. So I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit and like how that kind of reframed things for you and anything that changed up in how you approach the game.
Yeah, it's actually crazy that you asked me about that. So last night at FCA, it's my first time going to Baylor FCA,
Hmm.
which is crazy. I've been a part of SAC, which is like it's basically student council for our student athlete body for the past 3 years. So, and that's at the same time as FCA. But last night we were kind of talking about how those seasons of waiting, and whenever God says no, how it prepares you for a better yes. And I got to share a little bit of my testimony of how, for the first time ever, I didn't make a team. I went to the U16 USA trials that year, and didn't make that team. Then I was like, okay, I'm going to prove myself. Tore my ACL the first game after that in the July sessions. And then COVID happened. So I just kind of was in this perpetual season of, okay, I'm separated from basketball. I'm separated from my friends. Like, what am I going to do? And that's whenever I really gave my talents and my opportunities like a real reflective look. And I was like, okay, God, if you give me the opportunity to come back from this, I'm going to do the best that I can to glorify you through basketball. So that definitely is where that came from. And I've still tried to keep that mentality as much as I can throughout college as well and just past that injury. But it was a really difficult time. But and it was a hard recovery, but I'm back and better than ever. And it actually has been 6 years, which is insane. I
That
was
is
thinking about
crazy
that
to
the
think
other
about.
day. But no, very thankful that I've had the opportunity to come back from that so well.
Yeah, no, I love that perspective. I think it's I mean both injury and COVID I think really create an opportunity is the wrong way to put it, but like it just gives you an opportunity for perspective, like you said. I think in and it can be bad, it can be good. I think a lot of it's just what you make out of it and how you're able to approach it. So it's cool that you were able to really find that through that and be able to use that as a positive in some ways. Like obviously not to think away it sucks regardless, but
Yeah.
yeah, definitely respect that a ton because I dealt a ton with injury as well and like did not handle it the best. And it's like it's it gives you a lot of it just kind of changes your world in a lot of ways. So I think in some ways having that happen early um, is blessing in disguise. Again, seems unfair to put it that way, but like it gives you an appreciation that people might not have at the same age if they haven't gone through it. So it's cool that you can
Yeah.
have that. Going off that too, I want to talk a little bit deeper about your parents as well because you mentioned their playing careers. Obviously, both incredible playing careers at Missouri State. Obviously, your mom played with Jackie Stiles, who like for people who are not initiated, like Jackie was basically one of the greatest college players ever.
Mhm.
Short-lived W career because of injuries. Did you kind of, because I know like a lot of people who were growing up around the same time we did, early 2000s, mid 2000s, like maybe didn't have the same like the W wasn't as visible yet. So did you kind of get a little bit more of a crash course on that? Get to learn more about women's basketball from your mom than a typical player maybe does?
I would say yes, but honestly, more of it came from my dad.
Yeah,
He has, like, always just loved basketball. He actually used to be a really good baseball player growing up, and then decided to play basketball in college, which I didn't know that until a few years ago. I was
yeah,
like,
that's
"Wow,
random.
I'm actually really shocked by that." But he just always was, like I said before, I think just kinda knew that I had the opportunity to do something special and loved women's basketball. He coached girls and still does, in our area, and so he really was the one who was like, "Okay, this is who you need to be watching. This is who you need to try to model some of your game after," things like that. And of course, being young and just wanting to have fun, I was like, "Dad, I don't care. I just want to play.
Yeah,
Like, it's fun." But just now I have a greater appreciation for that too, because I got to go like whenever the Tulsa Shock was in Tulsa, I got to go to a game or two, and just kind of have been around and followed the WNBA.
that's cool. So like, who are the players that you had you watching, or who are the players you kind of looked at and like, I can take some pieces of their game?
I've always been a big Breonna Stewart fan. Of course, Candace Parker, Elena Deladon. Kind of that generation that people might say are older now.
Yeah,
But that's who I watched whenever I was younger. And then now, of course, there's so many new faces in the W. But there's still a lot of pros that are seasoned vets that are going strong till still too. So just a lot of those people. I wouldn't say that there's any one person. Actually, that's not true. I wouldn't say that there's any one person that has been my favorite consistently, just because the more that I've watched, I've started to have a greater appreciation for different people's game. But my favorite player in the W right now, I probably would say, is Nafisa Collier. There's actually
the
somewhere on my
Missouri
Instagram.
connection. Yeah,
Exactly. There's somewhere on my Instagram a picture. They played Kansas State, and we went to the game, and I was probably 13 years old at the time, and we played for the same club director at one point, and he introduced us, and I just was like starstruck. I was like, "Oh my gosh, like you go to UConn, you're amazing, you're gonna be one of the best pros to ever do it." um, so seeing her in this season of life and success, like I'm just like, yes, I've been on the bandwagon for that one. um, but no, I just have a really great appreciation for women's basketball.
no, that's cool. And like you said, I think having those small moments, I gotta find that on IG now because that's hilarious. Um, but like having those moments of like getting to kind of connect like that, it gives you something to like think about and look up to, right? Um, Particularly in fee and just in general, because I think when we're talking about like players that you can kind of see yourself in a little bit, when you think of like what your game is and what you're looking at for what you can do at the next level, and I think there's even more we can expand on with that with the program you play for. Um, but like, what are the things that stick out to you about the game right now and how you can apply yourself to it, and especially seeing it at the pro level?
I would just say the pace and the versatility, like, people like Nafisa, those 3 fours that also can handle the ball well and kinda set up the offense and get whatever they want. Like, I wanna be one of those people. I know people know me as a 3 and D player, but something I've worked really hard at this off season is kinda getting to my spots and taking my time, playing a little bit more of a power game,
Love hearing that.
and finishing through contact. But I love that. I really think that even though I'm not super big, people always tell me I look bigger than I am. I'm a true 5'11", 6 foot. I'm really strong. So I think if I take my time and use that, that's something that I see a lot in the W that could be beneficial for me.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I think what you just mentioned says a lot too, because so much of it is like, people look at wingspan and height and everything. Like it matters, don't get me wrong, but it's all about functionality. Like what can you
Mhm,
do? What can you bring? And I think obviously different players, but same ideas. Like somebody like Benijah Laney Hamilton. Like obviously New York has really missed her this year, but like plays essentially 2 through 4. And she's probably only 5'10" or 5'11" and can like really
mhm.
play power game, can do a lot as a driver, but unlock stuff defensively. And I see that a lot in your game too. And like, going back through and rewatching games, like obviously I know you're a talented defender. You can't really be a bad defender and play for this Baylor team. But going back and watching, like you can really guard up, you can guard down, like you can kind of just shift across positionally. You play with a lot of strength too, like you mentioned. I think hearing that you're tapping into even more of that is really exciting. Um, that's some stuff we're gonna dive into on film, but like I mean, exactly. Like it's really difficult if you're not basically the best player on court. You got to be able to do everything in some ways,
Yeah.
which I think it's funny because people think of role players in terms of like, oh, well, they're just like you said, just 3 and D. I'm like, yes, but also you got to be able to do all those things defensively. Like, can you switch? Can you be a good communicator? Um, like, there's so much that goes into it, and it's cool that you can kind of pick up and realize that already. Um, I want to go off that too as well. I've heard you talk a lot about communication being a very strong aspect for you, both on and off the court. And I was wondering what that evolution has looked like for you. Is that something that's always kind of been in your game, or something that you've kind of continued to adopt more as you get older?
Definitely something that's come with time and practice. I've always been somebody that wants to do so well that my delivery isn't always the kindest. And
So
I've had to develop those relationships with the people I play with, so they understand where I'm coming from. It's us wanting or me wanting to collaborate with other people to be successful. And within that, also the being receptive to what others have to say to me. I feel like that's something that I've worked on a lot. I actually read a book last year with our defensive coach, Coach Tony. Um, the name is like escaping me right now, but it was kind of about just those interpersonal connections and how you just have to be emotionally intelligent and how you kind of converse and do things. And people might be like, it's basketball, that doesn't matter. That's not important. If you're playing on a team that you want to be successful, like you have to make those connections and establish that with people early on. Because in the heat of a moment in a game, if I'm yelling at you because we didn't switch or we're not doing the scheme right, one, they're going to get on to me because I'm typically the person on the court that's in charge of making that happen. But also, that can cost us a win later down the road if we don't kind of get it in check early on. But no, I definitely think that the relationship building portion of that is super huge. And then just being cognizant of my delivery and how I'm saying things.
yeah, no, I really enjoy hearing that because, like, again, I think it's not always easy to find that in the space you're in right now. Like, I think that's things that people sometimes aren't recognized until they're a pro, and so being able to take advantage of that now is a big aspect of growth. Um, and I love what you mentioned too about delivery compared to being right in what you're saying because I was having a conversation with somebody about this the other day, and like, obviously, being smart is incredibly important, right? Like, you got to be smart, but emotional intelligence is part of intelligence. Like if you're not able to be smart in a way that you can convey things to other people and they're going to accept or want to take from you, then like how smart are you really, right? Like because how much are you able
Right.
to get across to somebody? So I love that, and particularly like you mentioned too, in the way you guys play. I think often people think of switching as like a kind of neutral defense or like lazy. I don't love using that term, but like to me, particularly the way you guys play, like you switch to take things away and it works
Mhm.
because you communicate at a high level. So obviously, like you mentioned, in terms of playing a big part in calling out some of those things, what does that look like for you and kind of growing into that? Because I know it's been an evolution for you guys the last couple of seasons, getting even stronger at that and really hitting a high level with that last year.
Yeah, I would say whenever I was younger, I just was always so much bigger and stronger than people that I didn't have to play like actual defense. I didn't
Yeah.
have to know how to kind of big step, chest up, different things like that. But whenever I got to college, that changed. And I think Coach Tony saw that as one of the areas where I could be really valuable for this team. So he kind of took me under his wing in that way and helped me to understand our schemes and kind of better be able to communicate that with other people on the team. I will say someone that really also helped me with that was Caitlin Bickle my freshman year,
Mm,
which she's been on the Sun roster a time or two and just has kind of been around the world playing as a pro now and learned a lot. But she definitely taught me a lot too, and just understanding. They used to call her like our quarterback when we were on
yeah.
defense, and I feel like I've kind of taken over that role a little bit. But they would have her in a spot where she's helping a lot and kind of directing traffic. And she was a really good example for me to understand and kind of listen to how to communicate things. So I would say those are definitely the two biggest factors that impacted me to be able to do that successfully for our team.
No, I love that. Just a couple more questions before we get into the film. Speaking of, I mean, your team as a whole, playing for Nikki Collin, obviously somebody who was a head coach in the W, coached in the W for a minute. Like, she's obviously, I've heard her speak incredibly highly of you in terms of what you can be at the next level, and obviously what you bring to the team now. What has that been like getting to experience? Obviously you guys play a very pro style system on both ends, and having somebody who's been there. So what has that been like in kind of imparting, taking some of that knowledge from her, and being able to pick her brain and kind of see those things?
I absolutely know that I made the right decision in who I had coach me, because so much of how she coaches me is how I had been coached growing up. That understanding schemes, and just having a really good basketball mind. I learn something new from her every single day that we're on the court, whether it's just simple stuff or if it's a new set that we're putting in. She just helps me to really understand basketball. One thing that used to drive me crazy when I first got here was she would always say, make the read. And I'm like, what am I supposed to be reading? Like, I didn't understand,
Hmm.
because coming from, even though we were 6A in Missouri, like we didn't have coaches that told us how to read things and how to that plays are supposed to develop. Like we came in, and Bugs and I freshman year, we came in and played a lot together, and we both would look at each other, we're just like, what are we supposed to be doing right now? But I would say she's just helped me understand, read and react, where to move to, kind of how to shift within the offense. Especially a lot off ball. I feel like I don't play on the ball a lot. So just knowing when to make those cuts from the 45, when to realize that there's a switch happening and either slip or kind of take advantage of if I have a mismatch in that switch, different kind of things like that. But no, she knows so much, and it's not just basketball either. I would say that I have a really good connection with her off the court, and that was a big part of why I came here, because she cared about me as a person as well, and got to know me and my family really well. So our basketball bond has strengthened just as much as our bond outside of the sport too.
No, that's awesome to hear. And I love what you mentioned too in terms of like, you are not used to, like, obviously you've grown into it and gotten very good at it now, but like not being used to being an off-ball player and like having to learn those things. Because again, I think so often people think of like, oh, you're off ball, you're just, you're not the player, you're whatever. And I think so much of being a great player on the wing is being able to do great things when you don't have the ball in your hand, and that can be 80% of a possession. Is that like, are you going and setting a flare at the right time? Are you coming off a flare at the right time? Are you selling a step so that you can get something off of a screen that's coming? Like, there's so much that goes into it, and like you said, I think so much was like kind of layering your game and seeing those things. And so yeah, no, I love hearing that. Lastly, what I want to hit on before we get into film, I know I've heard you mention it in past interviews about like kind of having like a little bit of a slump last year and handling that as a junior full-time starter for the first time. How did you kind of like handle that in the moment? How do you kind of reflect on that? And what was kind of it like going through that and figuring it out on the fly? Because I think again, that's the hard part of the season, right? Like I think often from the outside, people are like, oh, well, the season's so long, you have all this time. Like, well, it's practice game, practice game, practice game. Like you don't really get time to stop and think about it. So, what was that like for you?
It was difficult because I had really high expectations coming off of a really solid sophomore year.
Hmm.
And while I don't think that my numbers may have reflected exactly the growth that I had in that off season and the time that we had put in during that season as well, I just learned how to show up every day. You never know what someone's battling outside of just basketball. And just that was kind of a season of change for me. There are a lot of things that were different. So I just made sure that whenever I came in every day, I showed up and did the best that I could. I know some days I only had 60 in the tank. Some days I had a full 99, 100 in the tank. So I just made sure that whenever I came to games and practice, I showed up and gave the best that I could, and just made sure that I learned a lot from each experience each day.
Yeah, no, I love that, and like because it's funny again. Like you're doing, I mean, you're hitting on all the things that I think really matter. Because to me, especially as a pro, and I'm sure it's something Coach Colin and plenty of people have told you about, but like it's not talent as a pro. Like obviously you have to be talented to get there, but it's the consistency that makes you stick. And I think even for me, like I'm 28 and I think every day, like, okay, if like I slept on my shoulder weird last night. So I woke up at like 5 a.m. with like intense pain in my shoulder, which like just start doing as much stretching as possible now. I'm warning you. It gets only gets
Oh,
worse.
I
But
already am.
yeah,
I
yeah.
already am.
Yeah. But like little things like that, and it's like, okay, well, I still have to go about my day even though I have 3 hours less of sleep. And like not, not equating it to whatever was up, but like I think that's the point. Like I think that's the difficult part of like finding consistency is like, okay, how do I show up the same every day, even if I don't feel like it? And so that stands out that you're really able to grow from that. And it's funny too, because like you mentioned with numbers, I think like I can't stand when people say, like the men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Like I think numbers very much can lie because if you look at your year last year, yes, I know what the numbers were. I still think like the numbers are not bad. But watching your season as a whole, like you can really see your intensity all the time. You can see what you bring as a threat all the time. And just the foundation you have to build off of is really exciting. So I'm pumped to see what this can look like in your final year. I want to start off with your defense, obviously, because to me, I think your defense is like such a huge selling point of what you can do. Like we've talked about, I think so much of being a wing is being able to fit in multiple different places and play different positions and be an impactor. And you really bring that on the defensive end and gives you the ability to do, you know, stuff on offense because you have such that high baseline. Um, First question I have to ask though before we even watch the film: what did you think of the Big 12 championship court?
This particular game was really fun for me.
Mhm,
Anytime you play Iowa State, Bill Finley is such a good offensive
mhm,
coordinator and has so many talented pieces. Like you cannot not show up with your defense. Your defense has to travel, whether you're playing them at Hilton, whether you're playing them at home. Like you have to show up whenever you're playing Iowa State defensively. But this game was fun. Our key component was, of course, not letting Audie Crooks get her easy touches because when she gets the ball, I would say probably 75% of the time it's going to be a bucket or she's shooting free throws. So ball pressure and helping in kind of were two of the big things in this game. And I mean, we won. I think we did a pretty good job of it, but it was fun. And Addie Brown is such a fun matchup. Like she's one of those other big guards, can bring the ball up, initiate an offense, has great range, has like a mid range and drive game as well. So it was a fun matchup for me because I knew I had to stop all three levels.
yeah, well, that's a great place to roll it because exactly like you're talking about. I think this was one of the only games where you guys were not super switch heavy. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like because you guys were icing Audie a lot because trying to deny her the ball as much as possible. So, how does that change things for you when you're going from being more switch focused to icing?
I would say just being really locked in, especially with Addie at this point. I was the one on ball, so just making sure that I'm moving my feet, kind of staying within that arm's length distance, but also not crossing my feet, kind of chesting up when she picks the ball up and having really good ball pressure to close those gaps.
Hmm.
And then of course not fouling too. That's one thing Tony Green hates when we foul. Like we
Yeah,
would foul each other at practice whenever we would practice this, and he'd be like, "Okay, get on the line. Like we're not bailing people out by fouling them this year." So
yeah, no, absolutely. And I think this is something you do really well is like, especially against like size players, like somebody like Addie being able to, like you said, chest up, use your length, and you do obviously a great job of not fouling here and just sticking with the whole possession. Um, Getting into this one, obviously, like I think similarly to Iowa State, a very difficult offensive team to play against in Utah. What to you stands out about like how they play and what makes them so difficult to match up with on defense?
I mean, when you're 1 through 5 is well, their stars are what's it, 50, 40, 60,
Yeah.
40, 90, whatever. I don't know. It's not up here right now, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, oh yeah,
When you have
absolutely.
kids that are scoring and shooting at that high of a percentage, like you have to be on. You can't be in help side too deep or for too long. Like you have to be on. You have to get out and read body language. But every single one of their kids can make an open three, so you can't leave anyone. You have to be where you need to be. And we all had to be on a string. This game was really fun. Um, just defensively, I'm pretty sure my matchups were Reese Ross at a few points, and then mostly Gianna Neepkins, and that
Hmm.
girl can shoot the ball. She can score the ball. Um, but no, this is a really good team too because they space you out and they cut you. So
Hmm.
we really had to be on our rotations and where we needed to be.
Absolutely. So especially on this out of bounds play, so the way they play, like you said, tons of cutting. I love that you pointed that out. What are you kind of feeling out here, knowing like, all right, I'm on Gianna, but like have to kind of feel some of these other things out as the possession goes.
Um, Protecting that curl, getting over the top of the rescreen for sure. Um, what else happens? Oh, we do rolling switch a lot too. So, like,
Yeah.
if we get stuck in situations like that, like how I got hit, Tony always teaches us to not go underneath, but to kind of get on top and roll over that switch so they can't have that drop pass like the one that I just stole.
Hmm.
Um, but I feel like this group was such a fun team to play with, and I know people credited our offense and how well we shared the ball, but they made it so easy to go out and give everything you had on defense because you knew that they were going to be there to help you if you made a mistake. Like Nettie took that switch and stepped up, made her throw the drop pass instead of just giving her a pull up or a direct line drive. So
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think I totally agree because I feel like, um, obviously, I mean, you guys have been good the last couple of seasons, but the year before this past year, I felt like the defense started on a really high note and then it kind of like waxed and waned a little bit throughout the year. And that impacts your offense, right? Like, I think so
mhm.
much of what helped the offense last year was having that consistency on defense, and it really showed. And I love what you mentioned too on the rollback switch because this is like, again, very pro style stuff, doing more like peel switching, rollback switching, whatever you want to call it. Like, because you do such a good job of it. It takes away the roll, gives you an opportunity to get back in the play too, and just make that 2-on-2 really difficult. And obviously, do a really great job with your explosiveness here.
I probably should have got to her a little bit quicker and let Kyla step up and take Serena a
Hmm.
second sooner. But no, we just drill it so much that we trust each other.
Absolutely, especially right here too, where it's like, so when you're feeling, there's a screen coming, but it ends up not being like it's not a ghosted screen, but it's also not a fully set screen. How would you
Mhm.
kind of approach that one again?
The ball is what scores, so I got to stay in front of the ball. And then, of course, I dropped off afterwards on that rolling switch. But it's hard because when you're playing different people, when I'm playing like really shifty downhill guards, I
Hmm.
try to get up on that screen and make it difficult for them to get off. But with someone like Serena, she still gets downhill, but I gave her enough space to come off that I could still kind of stay in front and chest up if I needed to and step up to her.
Hmm.
But it just kind of depends on who it is coming off.
No,
So,
absolutely. I think that's a great point. Like, there's never really just like one solid way to play something, right? Which is annoying, but that's also part of the game, right? There's so much that goes into it.
mhm.
Um, so right here, I think this is just like a really great overall possession that you get to kind of see doing multiple things, right? Like getting that switch, fighting out. I love here too, like again, very pro stuff, like being able to scram switch. That's something you guys
Yeah.
got really good at this last year because I mean, it seems small, but like that's Utah's whole thing is like, all right, do we have an opportunity to attack high low as soon as we get the ball back out top? And like you're somebody I'd obviously trust you to guard that, but it's much easier to have Aaron out there. And then obviously they're trying to swing the ball back around again. Like there's so many different things you have to guard in a possession that's just not just like one action, right? And I think this shows that a lot.
Mhm.
So yeah, particularly too, again, like once you're coming off a scram right here, like, all right, the ball's coming to Giano. How are you kind of approaching this? Like, how do you want to guard this? How do you want to be in front of it?
Honestly, I need to just be up the line a little bit more, but just staying in front of her, like as long as I'm between her and the basket, I can make a play on the ball
Hmm.
without fouling or putting myself in poor position. Um, like I said before, when you play someone that's as good as Utah, you have to be really disciplined in how you switch and how you're just kind of positioning your body. Um, but no, it definitely was a good switching game as well because, like you said, Nettie and I kind of fired out and got back to ours. they brought it back to her in the corner. And then even after she came off on the top, Yaya and I switched again too.
Hmm.
So just kind of flowing with the ball and making those reads and trusting that your teammate is going to be where they need to be.
No, absolutely. And speaking on that trust element, I think right here again, like guarding stuff that's a lot of screens, off ball actions. You do just like watch it. Talk me through this one. Feeling this one out.
Hmm. Let me watch the action
Yeah, for
again. I
sure.
remember regarding this it just has been so long.
Yeah, no
Um,
worries.
I think we knew that that double action was coming.
Hmm.
But who ended up coming off of that? Was it Madison Scott that came?
It was
No.
Chinu.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we just knew that that double away action, they were doing that to kinda clear out a driving lane. I know they're still kinda clustered in the
Hmm.
middle on the right lane line, but we knew that whoever came up and had to take the ball through those switches, was gonna have to get over and get in front so that they didn't have a straight line drive. But I would just say flowing to the ball and being at the level that things are happening. I didn't wanna get too deep because I knew that there were 3 people over there in that action, and just kind of being in a spot where if I need to step over and how I had to take Yaya's, um, just being there on time so
Hmm.
that they don't have a straight line drive off of that play.
No, absolutely. I think that's like you said, a great pickup point and just like making that difficult being there because exactly like yeah, obviously you don't want to like leave anybody open, but who's making that pass to get back to the weak
Mhm.
side, right? So like it's just a really good play. Um, so here, one of the things in switching that I think is interesting and like sometimes how defenses can get manipulated when they're switching a little bit. So like I want to let's just watch this clip and tell me kind of what you think and
That one was hard because she just she worked us down a little bit.
mhm,
And what Madison Scott does is she gets to her elbow pull up jumper.
yeah,
Like that's her game. Anyone who's watched her knows that.
absolutely.
Um, And I think we also at times you can anticipate where the screen is, like the one that you showed before with Serena. Like right here, Christine didn't necessarily even hit me, but I kind of was anticipating there being one there.
Mhm.
Um, and I didn't know this until afterwards, which is bad, but we were supposed to trap one of these. I don't know if it was this one or the next one that she hit because she hit a couple late game
Yeah.
like this. Um, but I think our communication just wasn't there. And that's not even necessarily Nettie's fault. I think we could have done a better job of talking and being closer and making her feel uncomfortable in that space. Because you see, she even is kind of dancing with the ball.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
We could have
exactly,
been
like
up to the
mhm.
screen more and made her a little more uncomfortable. And I could have even just been up ball pressuring her a little bit more. So if she did blow by me, Nettie could have switched easier. But it happens. This was a tough game,
Yeah.
kind of a heartbreaking moment a little bit. But I mean, we live and we learn. We're both still playing basketball, thankfully. So just got to grow from it and be better this year.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you pointing that out because, like apologies, I don't mean that as, like, a gotcha, but I think
No,
it's
it's
so much
okay.
of, like, you're talking about, everything is how do you communicate things? How do you kind of assess things? How do you approach them? Because like, exactly like you're talking about. I think one of the difficult parts in, like, being a switching team is, okay, when you're playing a team that doesn't play with pace, that does like to grind things out a little bit, like you said, she's kinda, like, baiting you a little bit. She's like, "Alright, can I make something happen with the screen that I can go and get to where I want to?" So exactly like you said, I think so much of it is like how can you continue to develop that communication? How do you like iron some of those things out? Because being able to like you said, even like dictating this a little bit more, you up on her a little bit, like there's just so much nuance that goes into defense. I think is like the whole point of like looking at so many of these clips is like there's just a million different ways to kind of approach things and understand things.
Absolutely.
Um
I'm, like, watching so intensely, I'm just like, "Oh my gosh."
I'm glad. Yeah. Also, just to clarify, do you have like a hard out? If you need to get out at any point, let me know. It should only be like probably another 15 minutes.
Oh, no, we don't have anything until 2
Okay,
today, so you're
sick.
good.
I just want to make sure. Um, so getting into guarding down on some smaller players, I want to get your take first off. I'm just playing West Virginia. Like, what is
I
that
hated
like?
it.
Yeah,
I
it's
still hate it. to this day still hate it. They're so good. They're just so like, you know those teams that you used to hate playing when you were younger because they were just gritty?
Hmm.
Like, that's them, but they're also super talented too. So you when you play West Virginia, like, you have to show up defensively, and then you gotta put points up too. Like, that's what's really tough is you work really hard on defense against them, but they're still gonna score. Like, when you have a guard like JJ Quinterly on your team, when you have her and Jordan Harrison, like, you gotta be able to defend them, and then if they score, you gotta push it right back at them. Um, but I people know this, I'm a huge JJ fan. She's so talented, and just she ran that program the whole time she was there, got whatever she wanted for the most part, and, you just gotta kinda try to make it difficult. Like, she's one of those players that she's gonna get to her spot, she's gonna get to what's her game. But you gotta at least make it a little difficult for him, wear him out a little bit.
Yeah,
Um
absolutely. And that's what I want to look at because like again, playing a guard that shifty, who's obviously smaller but can score at all three levels, especially when it's like, okay, cool. I'm isolated on a sideline. Like that is like total danger zone because there is like
Yeah,
there's no help. You're on your own. So how do you kind of watch this? What are you thinking as you're going through it?
for sure, just from where she's at, no middle.
Hmm.
Um, and I knew that if I gave her that baseline, Nettie's there for that rotation. I still probably could have tried to push her a little bit more to the corner so she didn't have as good of an angle.
Yeah.
Um, but that's she's just tough. Like, sometimes that happens. Sometimes you get beat and you got to try to get back in the play. I could have probably stayed on her hip a little bit, like I said, and just made her get kind of deeper. So she either had to reverse layup or throw that drift pass.
Hmm.
But that's definitely a hard situation. You just got to be ready. You got to be ready to move your feet, and stay in front and make, if they do get to shoot the ball, make it a tough contest so they don't have anything easy.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's the hard part too, right? Because like even if okay, all it takes is if your foot is like even slightly out of place or if there's like an angle, it's just really hard to stop somebody who is that quick. And like you said too, like elite finisher at the rim for
Mhm.
regardless of size. Like she's just I think she shot like 60% at the rim last year, which is like, I think that's what Nettie shot at the rim. So like, it's
Yeah.
really difficult to stop that kind of stuff. But I think that's one of the things that thinking ahead to like next level, like continuing to get better at like, all right, how are some of like how do I nuance some of these things against smaller guards or like leveraging my length in other ways? Like that's stuff that I'm interested to see you continue to develop out. So right here, like we talked about with communication before we started film, I think this is, I mean, again, a huge point of showing like your communication ability to set stuff on the back line. Great tag up and then close out like whole thing with TCU is like you cannot let Sedona Prince touch the ball on, especially in the middle of the paint.
Mhm.
So as soon as you're in the back line, what are you calling out and what are you seeing? Because I know you can see that you're speaking here. So like, what are you kind of calling out? What are you telling Jada and Kyla?
Um, Definitely that screen was coming. I can't remember if we were blocking or not, which is like our hard hedge.
Hmm.
Um,
I think you guys
which I
were in this
think,
game, but she like slips the screen. So yeah,
yeah, because she started backing out of it before nothing was really even set.
hmm,
Um, and Kyla was where she needed to be, but I knew I had to get up there and tag and just have a good contest. That's one thing that we have a big emphasis on too, is if you help, like, you have to get back out. I know you might be coming from far away and be coming to double or whatever, but you got to get back out. And like, I about ran people over on the bench trying
yeah.
to get
Well,
back
I mean,
out and
I was gonna say
contest.
one of my favorite parts about your game is you never see a half-ass closeout from you, which I very much appreciate because make that a hard contest. Like everything needs to be difficult, so I love that. And then right here too, again, backline stuff like getting the initial, especially like all right, early offense, it can be a little bit muddy, right? Where like all right, I have to pick somebody up because they're on the paint, but so what are you feeling out here and kind of how you approach this possession?
I noticed that Kyla wasn't gonna get back before me.
Hmm.
Um, so I had to kind of take hers. I was telling her to take mine, but I don't think she noticed the rotation until late.
Yeah.
So just being ready to stop that drive. Um, and then what happens after?
It ends up being a post up. I think Jenna. I want to say 22 is Jenna Johnson. Yeah.
Mhm. just walling up and making that shot difficult for her.
Hmm.
That's one thing about Utah too. Like they're all pretty long.
Yeah,
Even their guards that are shorter are still close to my size and long. So just kind of not giving her that space and making it difficult for her to get that up on the glass.
definitely. Yeah, no, I think that's one of the areas you really succeed to is like being somebody who can defend the post, who can guard up a little bit. Like it always stands out a lot. Um, so let's get into offense a little bit. Uh, Obviously, I think the thing that starts off most is what you can do as a shooter. Like you're somebody who pretty much always has to be guarded outside the arc. So as soon as you're seeing this drive from the corner, how are you reading this, and what leads you to drifting here?
Like I said, Nikki just teaches us like that's a read,
Hmm.
reading and flowing with the ball, um, recognizing that okay, mine is going to help. So if Sarah sees me, I have a wide open shot in the corner on that kick out. And that's not just for me to get that shot. That's for our offense to continue. You see, it's early in the shot clock still, or relatively early. We still have 15 seconds whenever she's driving the ball and passing. So if I'm there, I could either pitch it to Kyla and come off as if it was like a ball screen in our offense,
Hmm.
or swing and kind of get us back into something late clock. But just being there so that whatever option is open, I'm in the right spot for my teammates.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and especially too, like West Virginia plays a super aggressive no middle. Like, I mean, like we can see, they literally have 5 players within 10 feet of each
Yeah.
other. So, like, if you don't drift, there's nothing there. Like, Sarah can't see anything if you're not there. I mean, like, sometimes there'll be like the cut down on top, but it's easy to pick up. So, like, if the skip's not there, then there's like you have to reset the offense completely. So, exactly, like being able to read that is so big. Um, Off this too, I think like again, you're not just a set shooter. Like you're somebody who can really come off action, come off movement, like even just a quick exit screen. I think, especially when you play more, like I think you're at the four right here. Yeah, when you play the four,
Mhm.
like exit screens are so difficult for force to defend if you're not switching. So I love like that you can take advantage of this, especially when you're playing at the four and you get those opportunities to kind of like work off. Playing against bigger opponents, what do you think is like most important to you in kind of getting to your offense or making yourself, an even bigger threat?
I would say still being aggressive, driving the ball, and working for stuff inside too.
Hmm.
But Nikki just kinda knows when she can put me in those situations. And in this game in particular, I had a lot of I know that play I had a couple threes off of, but I had a lot of spots that I just kinda spotted up in the trail
Yeah.
and hit some shots too. So just knowing that if there's a bigger guard or a big that's not gonna step out and guard me, just being confident in my ability to spot up and shoot it.
Absolutely. And I think right here, this is going to be like just this kind of action in general, being able to play as a screener, I think is going to be money for you. And I love that you've already gotten to do it so much playing at Baylor. Cause to be honest, like a lot of teams are not doing a lot of the same stuff. So getting to work is kind of like a pick and pop player. What do you think is so crucial to being able to do that and what you can build off from that?
I would say just making sure that I continue to set good screens. Nikki talks all the time about the angles of our feet, and being able to send people downhill. Like Aaliyah got to kind of the 1845, and if she wasn't stopped, would have gotten downhill more to the Big 12.
Mm.
But just whenever I do that, setting a good screen and then creating some separation, I probably could have separated a little bit more. But just making sure that I get a good screen set because usually if that happens, someone's gonna have to help and I'll be the person that ends up open.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think kind of exactly what you're talking about. Number one, like you are such a good threat off that. So even like I mean, West Virginia wants to contain this, but when you have like obviously Blackson's a solid player, but like that's just a tough play for her to make against
Mhm.
anybody. So being able to play kind of like more small ball forward, which honestly, like I think at the pro level is going to be something you can do, like because of what you bring defensively and just kind of the versatility in your game. So I want to watch these two clips back to back and tell me what you think is the difference in both these shots. If I need to rewind them, no worries, just let me know.
Okay. Just getting set. I think I recognized that I was open in the first one, but kind of rushed whenever I got it. Sometimes I do that. I'll just be like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm open. I'm getting the ball.
Hmm.
And we'll kind of rush into my finish. And you can see even as the shot's going up, I'm already walking out of my finish and I'm not getting to my finish. Nikki tells us that all the time to get to our finish and kind of stick our shot.
Hmm.
And then once we finish our shot, if we're supposed to be rebounding, getting back, doing whatever. I will say too, I feel like there was more of a closer contest on the second one, but because I did my shot prep and my footwork, it didn't really matter by the time I got up here and got into my shot. I kind of was already in rhythm. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you hit it on the head because like correct me if you feel otherwise. I feel like I mean pretty much all your footwork is right to left. Like going you take step left and come from the right obviously. Um
mhm.
and being able to like have that base is so big, especially coming off actions where you're coming from the paint outside like because technically it's like it's not a step back, but it's like similar motion, right? And if you don't like as you know like okay, cool. This my footwork's different if I'm doing it like this or I don't get myself fully
Yeah.
underneath me. So like you mentioned, I think being able to get that's huge, and then having the follow through. Um, I watched all your shots going back through for this, and I think exactly like this is to me emblematic of like when you miss a shot, it's because the contest like you let it impact your follow through or your feet don't come out
Mhm.
like because typically you have like a little bit of a leg flare too. So but like being able to pick up on that and notice that is big because I think like we talked about the consistency piece, so much of it is like all right, people know you're a shooter. And I think to me that was one of the things that was um, a thing for you this year was like, all right, I'm getting guarded hard on every single shot. Like people do not want me to be open. So now what's the evolution of how do I continue to improve my shot off that? Um, but no, that's cool that you can pick up on that and notice that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think something that I definitely want to focus on this year too is like I said, in that BYU clip that you showed, that's an opportunity where I have a closeout like that and I'm not set. That's a rip drive. That's a wherever my momentum's taking me, crossover step, get to my pull up, or get to the lane, kind of settle in and make a move. So I definitely will be focusing more on that instead of rushing an open three.
yeah, no, definitely. Because exactly like you said, I think, all right, you are drawing those closeouts and you have opportunities to do this. Like you're really good at putting the ball in the deck and getting to the rim. And like that's just
Mhm.
easy money. Like, all right, I'm in the corner, which you like never miss from the corners. So that's super helpful too. Um, but that makes it, I mean, that's easy 2 points.
Mhm.
And right here, because part of why I wanted to point out that pick and pop play earlier, I think this is stuff like again, next level, like just running actions in offense just ghosting into space, essentially, like giving the opportunity for that to be a switch and then being able to attack that. So, what do you like about kind of being able to attack off of a screen like this and then get the ball from it?
I would say just reading the space. I remember after this play, I was like, yeah, and one. I was because I knew I didn't have that three. And
Hmm.
whenever I drive against smaller guards, I know people say that it's tough to play against people your own size. When you have a small guard switch on you, it's like some of the most physical because they're not going to back down without a fight
Hmm.
type of like bumps that you're getting into. But just being able to read that space after I set those screens or after I ghost. Um, and I also like I was looking at my feet after you played that back. Like my footwork wasn't good enough to get into a three anyways.
Hmm.
So being able to differentiate between that and when I can drive and get to the rim, I probably could have. I mean, I was pretty clear on that finish, but I know Jada was rising too. So even if I would have gotten stuck down there, I probably could have kicked it out to her. But
Definitely.
definitely just reading that time and space after that ghost.
Yeah. No, I love what you mentioned too about the forward because like it seems so small, but that's such a big part in like giving you that extra like half a second, right? And just like opening
Mhm.
things up. And particularly when you're playing off the catch, I think that is so crucial in continuing to build things off that, right? Um, so here, attacking another switch. Just tell me what you're kind of thinking through in this clip.
Um, let me watch it one more time. Something that this is something I've been working on this off season too is I have a size advantage. Madison Connor's pretty decently sized. Um, but playing and getting to 2, like playing and kind of hopping and drawing that contact and then finishing. Because if I would have taken one more dribble and got into her, Sedona wasn't going to be able to come across the lane and help. So being more patient, getting to 2 and finishing because I didn't need to reach. I could have just kind of bumped and then finished with my left instead of trying to get back to my right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's exactly why I brought it up because I think in some ways, like you're really good at attacking the rim, but you almost make it like hard on yourself sometimes. But like, you
Mhm.
obviously you have the ability to get to an extension finish, and those can look great. But like, exactly like you said, like okay, maybe I'm mixing like a quick, like give a quick shoulder fade or do something to like get her off balance, get my strength into her instead of making a straight line drive, which is why this to me, I think this was my favorite play from you all year is this one because you really mix in some pace with it. You don't rush it and you get to a shot where like you have the touch to make those kinds of things inside 10 feet. Even if you obviously you don't want every shot to be a floater, but I think to me this is a better shot for you than like going and trying to rush a layup.
Mhm.
But
For
yeah,
sure.
exactly. Like even just like
Sure.
taking that quick pound dribble after you get a chance to survey and then go in, like that gives you it just gets you even more on balance. Like so it's great seeing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And kinda elevating more. I feel like that's something too. I haven't done that a lot in my game in college, but in high school, I definitely shot more pull-ups and kinda in the lane, floater type shots, some
Mhm.
turnaround jumpers and things. So I think that'll come more this year with that being patient, and finding pace like I did during that play.
Absolutely. Yeah, because even like you mentioned, I think so much like you think of like, oh, if I'm playing like as fast as possible, I can get to those things or I'm going to be at my best. And really, like when you slow down and you survey, like that's when you get the chance to be most explosive because then you can take advantage
Mhm.
of things. And so being able to like recognize that stuff already is really big. Just a couple more clips. Right here again, I think another really just solid drive. Oh, wait, no. Hold on a sec. Have it. I have my clips mismatched. My bad.
I
Right.
remember this.
Yeah. So just
I
getting a
remember
post
this too.
mismatch opportunity, because to me, like you talked about, I tried not to show my hand earlier, but I love that you mentioned getting better at this stuff because this is stuff where like I think you get these opportunities and you can just mash them to hell and
Yeah.
get to the free throw line, get points.
Absolutely, just slowing down, like, I had that seal, Haley's basically trying to work me out, I should have spun and sealed, I could have spun and sealed the other way, and even I mean, Sedona would have been there for backside help, but taking a second, kinda facing up and surveying how she wants to play me, if she woulda gave me middle, I coulda went middle. If I woulda taken a step out and faced up, I coulda rip drive to the baseline, but definitely like, this is the type of stuff that we watched this summer or that my coaches would talk about this summer. Um, because I have a size advantage, I have a length advantage. Just gotta slow down and make those plays. That extra 2 points is significant, especially in a game like this. Like every time we play TCU, every possession mattered. So being able to take advantage of that more this year will definitely come with this year's game.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and a big reason I want to show you some of these clips is because I think oftentimes people are thinking like development of like, when you are somebody who has like 30% usage, when it's like, oh, well, I'm getting into my fadeaway, I'm working on these aspects. And like, I think the fun part of what you bring is like a lot of the stuff that you can improve on is stuff that you can get to easily. Like, I think
Mhm.
it's on the table for you so quickly. And like, again, like the recognition and stuff is really big. So I wanted to show you really quick too, a couple of players in the W doing some of the stuff that we're talking about that I think could like really translate for you. So, one player who obviously you guys are different, but like similar in terms of like role and how you guys are going to play. I think Bridget Carlton does a lot of stuff in terms of particularly being like a driver who plays with pace and reads things and is just a strong attack in the lane, but doesn't waste space, right? Like because right here, Golden State loves to X out. They play super hard on the corners. So right here, like it's easy, like, okay, that could be either, getting forced into a shot or getting uncomfortable, but instead she quick pivot into fadeaway, like just because there's nothing, obviously
Mhm.
nothing at the rim. Um, so I love that right here too. Especially just like one of the things that's really big too in driving, like everything can't be a straight line drive. So finding ways to make it, getting through nail help, especially like, I don't know how much you've like looked at like high gathers and stuff like that, especially for wings. Like I love the high
Mhm.
gather, and then gets
Yes.
into a touch finish here. What do you
Yeah,
like about what that can be?
I definitely like that, high gather. I feel like one thing I definitely need to work on this year too is that middle drive. I love baseline and I love getting to the corner, for my threes, but working on middle drives and making reads, like knowing that, okay, if I'm coming off of the ball screen or if they've reversed it to me and that's where the space is, I also can get there and make a play for someone else. Like I don't
Mhm.
have to feel like I need to make a floater, shoot some crazy shot in the middle of the lane, going middle off the rise.
No, absolutely.
Um,
Nice. Yeah. No, that's perfect. So one last clip. I think another player who kind of reminds me of you a lot is Kennedy Burke, who plays for the Liberty right now. Um, Again, similarly, like I think as soon as she gets cut off, all right, working back middle, I ends up drawing a free throw off it. But like we're talking about, like okay, just reading the angles, seeing the angles, like how do I make this an even easier shot? Because like obviously she has the drive and she's able to get there, but being able to make this points, is what we love. Um, that's all I got clip wise. I just want to say thank you a ton for taking the time to do this and being so invested with it. I appreciate it.
yeah, thank you. I might not watch as much as I need to, but whenever I'm watching film and breaking down basketball, I love it. It always helps me get better. So I appreciate you putting the clips together and taking the time.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, to everyone watching, of course, keep up with all things Baylor women's basketball, everything going on for Bella and her life. Obviously, a lot coming up in the next week. Somehow, season is just around the corner.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your day.